Hello and welcome back to My Life's Toil with me. I'm Neil. And if you've been following me recently, you'll know that I've been doing a weight loss plan using Mounjaro weight loss injections, which have been going quite well. I've documented it right from the start. Today is the start of week 11 for me, and it's jab day and I'm still on the 5 milligram doses, which I have stayed on. And rather than moving up to the 7.5s when I had chance, I stayed on them because it was working for me. And we've discussed this a lot in recent weeks. I always advocate for people to stay on a lower dose if it works for you. We are all different, as I keep saying, and some people have needed to go up the doses to see any of the benefit, really. But today is, as I say, it's the injection day. Last week I went into my thigh for the first time, and it was a good week actually. I found that it was a slow uptake. It didn't give me that boom impact that the abdomen tends to do. And it seemed, I think, to stay in the system a little bit longer. My food suppression was better. Obviously, over time, they're telling us that sort of it builds up in the system better anyway. Although the therapeutic range for the tirzepatide in the Mounjaro is only 5 days, and you will hear a lot of people saying that they don't wait a week before they jab. A lot of people, and some have even been prescribed the medication through doctors usually to jab every 6 days. Now, that isn't exactly what Eli Lilly, the manufacturers, have told us to do because they say it's once weekly, although they do know that it is in the system only for 5 days per jab usually. It's still been regarded as a once weekly injection. But where people have been guided by their doctors to do other things, obviously they're going to be monitored by them, and that's absolutely fine. There are some people that do micro dosing as well, where they'll have, for example, a 5 milligram pen, but they'll do 2.5s on day 3 and day 7, if you will, or day 1, should I say, and day 4, which makes more sense. And that's working well for them. Again, it's not exactly following the guidance, but who am I to say? I can't guide people on this type of thing because I do work as a medic in the UK. I'm a paramedic and I'm registered, so I can't exactly give that type of advice to people. But if people, we're all adults, and I've said that before, we hopefully take in the advice that we're given and make a formal decision, and we look out for the nasty side effects and things like that. But today we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A and go through some of the questions that have been popping up since Saturday, and hopefully some of them come up quite often, so I think it's a good idea to go over a few things just to help those people that are starting out and those that aren't sure about a few things. So let's have a look at the first question. This question states a query about slow digestion. How does this affect prescribed medication in pill form that I'm taking? Do they linger in your stomach longer before being absorbed into your bloodstream? I'm thinking about statins, thyroxine, etc. A really, really good question, and that does come up every now and then. And there is guidance around this, which I'm going to read directly from Eli Lilly's PDF that's on the web. And if I remember, when I put the video up, I'll put a link into this because I think it's really worth reading up about this medication, especially if you're on other medications as well. Before using Mounjaro, I'll go through a little bit of this. Tell your healthcare provider about all your medical conditions, including if you have or have had problems with your pancreas or kidneys, have severe problems with your stomach, such as slowed emptying of your stomach, gastroparesis, or problems with digesting food, have a history of diabetic retinopathy, are scheduled to have surgery or other procedure that uses anesthesia or deep sleepiness, sedation, are pregnant or planning to become pregnant. It is not known, if Mounjaro will harm your unborn baby. Tell your healthcare provider if you become pregnant whilst using Mounjaro. This is the important one. Birth control pills by mouth may not work as well while using Mounjaro. If you take birth control pills by mouth, your healthcare provider may recommend another type of birth control for 4 weeks after you start Mounjaro and for 4 weeks after each increase in your dose of Mounjaro. Talk to your healthcare provider about birth control methods that may be right for you whilst you're using it, basically. Now, I think the thing to remember is because Mounjaro, one of its actions is the slowing of gastric emptying, it is known now that the absorption of oral medications is affected. And I've seen this even when I've taken paracetamol for a headache. It doesn't have quite the same effect straight away as it usually does with me, for example. So this is known. So, and certain medications don't get absorbed into the system actually in the stomach. It's in the small intestines beyond the stomach. So if it's sitting in there, you'll certainly notice a difference. And I think this information about the birth control pill certainly highlights that. So it's certainly worth, if you're unsure and if you're on particular medications anyway, it's always best to get that proper advice about what you're on, tailored for you. I'll help with general information where I can, but I don't know the answers. I'm not a doctor level and I don't know all the answers. So it's important because this is quite an impactful medication, this is, and it will make a lot of changes to us. And we need to know what we're doing. And that's not to frighten anyone. That's just so we know all the facts, really, and we can do things right and have that peace of mind. And just to add to this, just on the last little bit of what Eli Lilly have said, and this is for the diabetics out there that are looking at using this. Before using Mounjaro, tell your healthcare provider or your doctor or your prescriber, your pharmacist, if you are taking any other medications to treat diabetes. Now that can be anything that changes our insulin, anything that works on the pancreas and the enzymes around diabetes. And there's many of them. There's too many to go through here, but just get it checked out because there is a risk that it can cause hypo if you're already taking medication that will adjust your blood sugars. And the next one is a question from Tracy. Do you think you will stay on at 5 milligrams for another month? In your own opinion, do you think you got better results from the thigh versus the stomach? Yes, I'm staying on the 5s. I put my order in and it should be with me. I think it should have been delivered today, but I didn't see the postman. And who has problems with Royal Mail in the UK? I was in and I just had the card through the door. So I think it's going to be overnight. It'll all be defrosted by the time it comes back to me in the morning. And I do feel sometimes that these people know what's in there and they know it'd be written all over it that it's like time sensitive and that type of thing. And I know that whoever knocked the door this morning, they weren't there long enough and the card had been pushed through that quickly. But that's another argument, isn't it? So yeah, my 5s is on the way. It should have been here today. I've ordered it early. I've got a couple of weeks until I need that one anyway. But as long as it doesn't go above room temperature, it'll be okay and it's still sealed and it's within its sell-by date. But do I think I got better results between the abdo and the thigh? Now, not necessarily better results, but certainly different. I think, as I've said at the start, the uptake felt different. When I go into my tummy, I feel the effects almost immediately, whereas it was slowly developing last week. And I've only been into the thigh once. I did my right thigh, and I'm going to do the other thigh again this week. And the other thing I'll mention whilst I'm on that point is someone mentioned about there's some talk about having less side effects for people that inject just before bedtime. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what the science behind that would be, but I will give it a go one of the days. And I'll tell you what I will do. I might do it next week as well. I'll get someone to do into my arm just to see how that feels, just so I can report from my point of view, having gone into all the sites then, what works differently. But the thigh's been good. I've really done well. Now, just to go over, I know we're in the middle of the questions and comments bit, but just do a little bit of what's happened in the last week. The suppression was good. I am using willpower more, and I'm expecting to use the willpower more, and that's fine. That's something I think we all need to try and adjust to. It can be hard when the cravings come back on, but I think if we just prepare ourselves mentally to say, knowing what day it wears off for all of us, and we are all different. I've seen that in the comments, but just to be aware of that. And I've seen people put comments where they're getting the snack food in, the healthy snacks, if they do feel that they need to, and they're preparing, they're getting rid of the rubbish. It's a great idea, and it is just putting you in that frame of mind. So it's really positive. I like that. But yeah, the thigh has been good for me. It does feel different. It does feel different. Might be up here. It probably is. But that's why I'm going to give it another week. And then next week, should we go into the arm? Next question from Nuggy1980. Do you find that on weeks you haven't lost any weight, that your measurements still change? This is a valid point, and it's true. Hearing this a lot, people saying, "Oh, well, I've gone down a size in clothing, but my weight hasn't changed, or even put a pound or two on." And that's quite normal. And the feedback is from the professionals that are guiding us, is that if you're working out, if you're doing lots of exercise and you're firming up, you will lose sizes in clothing, which is obviously positive. But your weight might, the fat weight might be replaced with building a little bit more muscle mass. So I think that's absolutely, yeah. I think I've had, over the last few weeks where I sort of plateaued, but my measurements still came down a little bit. I think that's proof positive in that. So that really can help. So I'm assuming, Nuggy, that this has possibly happened to you. Let me know. But it's an interesting point. So I think it proves that I especially get focused more on the weight. And I've already said that there's a lot of people that they don't really bother with the weighing and weighing all the time. It's about how they feel, how they look, and how the clothes fit. I've got another baggy t-shirt on today, haven't I? This one, though, comes up a lot from Susan Allison. Neil, just wondering how many calories you eat in a day. Mentioned this a few times, and I tend to stay about the same now. But I target 1,800 calories a day. I've got some information somewhere, and I'll put it up on air about what calories. We all should have different calories, really. And the apps that I've mentioned in the past can help us work out those calories based on our BMI, height, weight, and things like that, and age. So I'll put them up as well. So one's NutriCheck, the app I'm using at the moment. The other one is the MyFitnessPal app. There are others out there. Someone's mentioned an app to me in the comments. Can't remember what it was now, but I'll put it up if I find it. So I aim for around 1,800. Sometimes I actually come in below it if I feel well enough. I don't feel tired, and that's going to get me onto another comment in a bit as well. And I'm not frightened about going slightly over, because theoretically a man can be taking 2,500 calories a day. So the idea is the calories, if people are just starting this, and there's a lot of people that start and they wonder why it's not working for them. Sometimes it needs to be a higher dose. Sometimes it's because you're not in a calorie deficit. And that calorie deficit means you're taking in less calories than you need to, and you're then basically forcing your body to burn the fat that you've stored on you. And you need to do that sensibly. You don't want to, some people are doing it dramatically. I did at the start, to be honest with you, and I did drop a lot of weight, but that was when I felt not hungry at all. And you need to remember to eat. Just let it help you choose a healthy lifestyle of food. So, but remember to enjoy your food as well. Don't get eating cardboard snacks like I've tried in the past. That reminds me of something else I want to talk to you about later on in the video as well. But yeah, so work out what calories you need. You can come in just underneath, but don't make yourself poorly with it. Just remember, good balance, plenty of fiber, plenty of protein, and fluids. Always aim for a minimum of 2 litres of fluids a day. So another question that comes up, I see this one, I haven't seen it for a few weeks actually, from Maca JV9VP. Anyone getting vivid dreams on 2.5 milligrams? I am 3 weeks in. Yes, We've all had them. Well, I have. I've not so much vivid dreams, like a little bit of like nightmares and disturbed sleep. But I've heard lots of people talk about these vivid dreams, like all sorts of strange dreams going on. So they normally clear. I'm assuming you haven't had them for the 3 weeks, and maybe they're just occurring 3 weeks in, but they tend to settle. I have to admit, my sleep hasn't been great since I've started the Mounjaro per se. I tend to have a number of sleepless nights, and then I'll catch up later in the week. Um, and there's nothing else that's going on that's causing my sleeplessness. I don't think so, apart from making sure I get videos out for you guys. That does play on my mind a little bit, but that's my problem. But yeah, the vivid dreams thing, we've heard all that, haven't we? Nothing like that's been mentioned in any of the literature, though, has it? There's lots of things that are popping up and people are noticing that's not mentioned in the literature. I wonder if they'll update that. Watch this space, maybe they will. That leads me on about sleep and things. Neil, how are you managing to maintain your energy levels? I'm struggling lately, been on 5 milligrams for 2 months. I'm taking my first 7.5 jab on Tuesday. So I'm assuming that was yesterday. It's Wednesday today, isn't it? I wonder how they got on. That's from Stephen Travis. No, I hope you're getting on. Yeah, since I've been on Mounjaro, I haven't been as energetic as I have been when I was a lot fatter. And some of that's down to the poor sleep. I think some of it's down to possibly my calorie deficit. There are days that I feel absolutely brilliant. Most mornings I feel like I've been hit with a lead balloon, but it improves during the day. I'm not as nauseous, that's the other thing I should have mentioned, on the thigh jabs as I was on the abdo jabs. Has anyone else noticed that? That's quite important for me, to be fair, unless I'm just getting used to it, because that will happen. These basic side effects should settle, really. I know that there's been a lot of people that just having them all the time. They may be more reactions than side effects, but something to look out for. But yeah, I think for me personally, the energy levels haven't been great. Like I say, I struggle to get out of bed some mornings. I manage, but it takes me a while. So yeah, but I'm hoping it'll pass. I mean, I've just done 10 weeks on this. First couple of weeks, I felt brilliant, but I think that was just the honeymoon period, if you will. And then just going up to the fives, I have noticed just a little bit of lethargy, really, but hopefully it'll pass. And I'm trying to stay positive up here. But make sure that you're getting a good balance of everything, because if you're cutting certain foods out, for example, you may be missing out on the excuse me, the essential vitamins that we need. So that might be something to consider. I've certainly considered it, and I'm on it. So we'll see how it goes. But it's worth touching back up on this for the people that are struggling with the same sort of side effects. But yeah, we'll have a look at this a bit further on as we go. And then a message from Ian Cottam, one of the channel members, actually. I've had a few discussions with Ian, and he's put, "Morning, Neil. Do you eat anything before work or just rely on the Huel for breakfast?" Work days, I work Monday, Tuesday. I do quite long days. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Those are the days I have my Huel drink, or did have my Huel drink. That's sort of in a transitional phase at the moment. And then Wednesdays, I might have something different. I had a protein bar this morning, and it's a different one. It's a Warrior Crunch bar that somebody on here recommended to me, and I brought a box of them from Amazon. They weren't cheap. I think I got a box of 12 for around about £20, but they're really dense and the flavour is lovely on them. Loads of protein, no sugar or very low sugar, and they are nice. I'll put a picture of the box up here for you for someone that's interested. And I know there's been a few people. They are much better than the the Warrior Raw bars, because I think we had a joke about this. Whoever recommended them to me felt guilty, but some of them were okay, but they did taste a little bit powdery and a bit cardboardy. But the crunch ones, lovely, well worth a go. So that's on my work days anyway. But on my day off today, I haven't had a Huel today. I've had the protein, and I've had beans on toast for lunch. Whereas on a work day, I just graze on fruit. Sometimes I'd have something a bit more substantial. If I pop to my mum's at lunch, I might have just some scrambled egg or something, and then always a proper, really balanced meal on the night time. Last night we had salmon fillets with loads of different mixed salad with pulses and things like that in certain beans, like cold beans, which is nice in a salad. On my days off, it could be anything like eggs, sometimes cereals, but none of this sugary cereal stuff that I would have had a few months ago. I have a lot of shredded wheat and that type of thing with skim milk now. Eat a lot of eggs, really. So I try to eat eggs earlier on the day rather than last thing at night. If you watched my video from a couple of weeks ago, you'll know that I had some nasty sulfur burps and really bad indigestion, which we'll get onto in a bit, from eating egg a bit late, because it just sits in the tummy, doesn't it? With this gastric slowing down stuff. But yeah, so that's that. The Huel, there's no reason why I'm changing it, but it's just fiddly. Now, I've been buying the powder and I mix it with water, and I've been put onto, through my wife, as I mentioned before, another. It comes in individual bottles, and they work out okay considering it's a full meal in a bottle. And I'm going to do them on my work days, and I've just brought enough to last me for 3 weeks, and it wasn't too expensive. Now, for me, for 3 weeks, work days, it's cost me about 30 quid, including delivery. And I might as well tell you what they are. They're called Y Food, and I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I've just been recommended them from my wife. She gave me a couple of hers last week to try, and they're really, really filling. Not that I needed much filling, because has anyone noticed you're eating a lot less? You can't eat as much now. The gastric emptying doesn't allow it, and you don't feel like you need to. But that's nothing. But I'll let you know how that goes without waffling on too much, like I already have, I suppose. Right, that's it for all the questions then for this particular video. So I'm going to get on to, now I'm not going to move, I'm not going to move, that's beans again, out of the living room to do my injection, because I did my injection standing up in my thigh last week, and someone says, well, you can do it sitting down. I thought, I know I can, but I was doing it in the kitchen to stand up to show people, and that's what I was doing. But I'm going to try and sit down to show you. Just relax, you don't need to. Just make sure your muscles are all nice and soft. You don't want to be tensed up, and you can literally do it nice and relaxed. As long as it's clean, you wash your hands, and you're good to go. It's no problem at all. If I do my arm next week, I'll get someone else to do it, because I know people are doing it in their arms themselves, but Eli Lilly's guidance is to get someone else to do it. But let's get on with the jab and see how we go into the left thigh. So, as we know, we need our stuff. I've been keeping it in the fridge, as I've said. You don't need to, as long as it's below 30 degrees. And that's the dog coming in, by the way, with my squeaky door. As long as it's kept, you can keep it room temperature, but it's coming towards the summer here. So I'll tell you what, I'm feeling lucky, aren't I? I think it's going to get above 30 degrees here in the UK. It's not very often it does. But give your pen a good check. Make sure it's all intact. Have a look at the fluid. We're going to put the needle on in a bit and prime it again before we go into the thigh. So that looks good. We've got some bubbles in there. Don't usually have them, so it can happen, can't it? They sometimes hide around the little plunge a bit down the bottom, so it's always good to give it a tap up. But we'll give the pen a good clean. So you need your pen. Make sure it's all in date. Make sure it's yours if it's the first time. Make sure it's the right dose. I did mention this before. Someone had the wrong one sent out, and it was purely the pharmacist's fault. And unfortunately, they didn't have a look, because you trust people, don't you? Don't trust anybody. Do things for yourself. Med wipes. So, now I say this every time. The very first time I did this, because I'm a paramedic, and when I was working on the ambulances, if we were doing like a BM or giving an IM injection, we'd always give the skin a clean and inject. What they actually send these for, and it's not bad practice to do that, but just always make sure you clean, obviously, as you do. It's always risking any infection risk. cut that out immediately. But this is to clean the little seal that's on your pen. And so all you want to do, and I'll show you every time because I think it's important that we do, just clean where the contact is between the rubber seal and where the needle's going. Now, again, as I say, I've been criticised for cleaning more than I need to, saying that it's pointless, but I just like to be clean. It just makes me feel better. Hands are washed. I've used the alcohol gel as well. I am a bit of a clean freak when it comes down to my hands and things. So I'm going to put that back on just whilst we get the actual needle ready. Put that down there. Have your sharps been ready to go as well? I'm going to get that opened up. There's some parts of things that go in the bin, and there's also some parts that go obviously in the sharps box. The only thing that goes in the sharps box is the needle when you've finished it, which with checkup comes with this. Some of these are 4mm long, mine are. Some of them are 5mm long. I really don't think that makes much difference because we're going into the subcutaneous fat and there won't be a huge amount of blood vessels there, but depending on which site you're going, obviously does make a difference, doesn't it? But the gauge on this is fine. Now, I did say I was going to get a hair off my head to show you just how fine this needle is, because on the screen here, it doesn't do much justice. It still actually looks wider than it really is. But let's get it all primed. Let's get it set up and we'll do the jab into the leg. So, as I say, take the seal off, get your pen ready. Just make sure everything's intact. Make sure there's no breakages and it's all nice and clean. There's a needle that goes all the way through here. So you want that. You don't want to offer it in bent because, as you can see there, I'm touching the needle with the side of this. You don't want to do that. You want to just go straight in like this and then screw it down. Okay. And as I've said many times before, take the first shield off, the first guard off there. You're keeping that because that's what we're going to put back on when we get rid of it. Then there's a second shield here that's covering the needle itself, the metal bits that goes into the skin. So we don't want to touch that, but we do want to take that off. That now can go in the normal household waste. Now, I'm on the Juniper group on Facebook, and they were talking about what to do with the pen after you've finished with it. And a response from Juniper, from their help department, to this particular person on Facebook was that when you finish with the pen, it goes in the sharps box. Totally against what Eli Lilly have said. That pen, when it's finished with, goes in your household waste. It's fine too. There's no reason why that, without the needle on, there's no reason why that can't go in the household waste. And there's no recycling facilities for it, unfortunately, either. Right, so let's get on with this because I'm waffling again. So look at your dial there for the people that haven't seen this before. And we're going to give it 2 clicks onto that first long line. So from 0, and you can turn this whichever way you like, we go click, click, and that long line is the prime position. Then we offer this up. We encourage any air bubbles to rise to the top. Tiny, tiny air bubbles in here are not going to cause you any problems whatsoever. To have a problem with air in your system, you'd have to inject probably more than what that actually holds, and it would have to be into the vein, and it would be just uncomfortable. But to cause any significant harm, you need, and I'm not saying go out there and try it, but it's to put your mind at rest, because I know people are frightened about having air injected into the system. The worst that's going to happen with a couple of air bubbles is just going to be a bit sore. So just get it up there. And then what we do is we literally, you've got a tiny bit to press here, and you press and hold it. It stays for 5 seconds. And if you press it, you just see tiny few beads come off the top of there. I don't know if you can see them. Hopefully you can. There's still one forming now. Look, can you see that? There we are. So that now is ready to go into the skin. So in order to get it ready to actually give you the full dose, we're turning this all the way, and watch how the plunger, this part, comes out ready for you to push it back in. So you get it onto that number 1 there. Some people count the clicks to get particular doses, but if you're following the plan as it's meant to be, you're just going for 1 dose of whatever pen you've got, whatever dose this is. And as I say, it's 5 milligrams, look. Okay, so we're ready. So I'll adjust the camera now onto my thigh so you can see me what we're doing. That's on one dose. Let's give it a go. So, right, so I've got my shorts on ready. I'm literally going to expose this bit of leg here. I'm going to go slightly to the outside here. And they say that 2 sites on your thigh generally, down here, down here. As long as you're getting into a fatty part, you'll be absolutely fine. So get the pen, make sure nothing's touched the needle, it's still all nice and sterile. Your hands are clean, the sites are nice and clean. Relax your knee, hold the pen nice and firm with your thumb ready on there. Don't get pushing it until you're in the skin. That doesn't get pushed. The only time that gets pushed is when it's inside you. And that's on the one dose. Other than that, it's when you prime. You don't prime when it's inside the skin. I've heard that people have done this. Right, so let's go for it. Hopefully you can see this nice and clearly. And we're going to go, I'm going to stay nice and relaxed. Keep it straight. I keep saying this every time because people have bent the needles. I can only assume they're going in at an angle. There's absolutely no need to do this because it's only 4 millimeters long. I'm going to go straight into the thigh like that. Can't hardly feel. I can just literally feel the contact between the actual pen and the skin. Doesn't feel sharp, and if you've noticed, I've pushed the plunger in, count to about 5 seconds. We're going to pull out as we went in, which is straight, job done. Make sure there's no blood, which there isn't. There is, I don't know if you can see it on here, a tiny, tiny bead of the tirzepatide, the Mounjaro. Just going to wipe it off here. And that's absolutely fine. That's my 11th jab, is it? I think it's the 11th jab, isn't it? So, right, remember we kept this safe. Back on there, like so. And then don't need to talk, do I? So it's safely away. Pen then can be put away. If you're keeping it anywhere other than the fridge, make sure it's in the box so it's out of direct sunlight because that could affect it as well. That's going to go back in the fridge for me. It's been out for about 20 minutes whilst I've been doing the questions and answers. It's been here with me all the time, but it will go straight back in the fridge now. And that's that. That's that done for another week. And I'll report back the weekend. It'll either be Saturday or Sunday. I am working on Saturday this week. I've got an extended access clinic on Saturday morning. If I get a chance on the afternoon, maybe I'll update you then. Otherwise, it'll be Sunday again, if that's okay. If there's any more questions, please fire them across and I'll help where I can. But I'll update you on how things are going. And now, as you know, I only weigh on a Saturday or a Sunday, depending on which day I do the video. And I haven't sneak peeked either, so I just don't know. And I'm not going to weigh myself more than once a week now. That's what I'm doing. And we discussed all this last week, didn't we? So if you're on the plan or if you're just starting, go for it. I know there's a lot of people that have gotten a lot from what I do on here, and I'm really grateful for the support that you're giving back to me because I'll always try and give that out to you. If you're, again, sitting there and you've got your Mounjaro in the fridge, but you're like worried about doing it, it is so easy. And it's not because I'm a paramedic. I was frightened to death before I started injecting myself. It's so different to doing it on other people, honestly. I can just get on with it but when you first do it on yourself, it is daunting. But you soon become an expert. Just be cautious. Don't be overcautious that you make mistakes. Be confident with it at the same time, and you will amaze yourself. The first time you ever do, you will feel brilliant for it, as long as you don't make mistakes. So don't make mistakes. Do it exactly as I've said, nice and straight. Keep it simple, and you'll be fine. So let me know how you're getting on. I'll do the same for you Saturday or Sunday, and it'd be interesting to see how things are going. Speak to you soon. Have a great week. Take care. Bye bye.